As a longtime Tolkien enthusiast and ardent fan of the Middle-earth universe, I must admit that I was initially skeptical about the inclusion of Tom Bombadil in the Rings of Power. However, after witnessing Rory Kinnear's enchanting portrayal, I find myself captivated by this unique take on an iconic character. Warning, spoilers for Rings of Power. Season 2, Episode 4 ahead. Thank you very much. As a dedicated fan of Middle-earth, I must admit that the Tom Bombadil portrayed in The Lord of the Rings of Power, isn't exactly the same as the J.R.R. Tolkien's original character. Yet, despite my initial apprehensions about his inclusion in the Prime Video series, I find myself drawn to the on-screen interpretation. In my humble opinion, as a movie reviewer, let me take you back to the furling world of Middle-earth in the Rings of Power Season 1. The enigmatic stranger found himself haunted by a distinctive constellation that kept appearing in his dreams and visions. He began to suspect this celestial pattern held the key to his purpose in this magical realm. As the first season concluded, he and Nori embarked on an eastward journey toward Rue, believing it to be their best lead. Fast forward to Season 2, Episode 4, mysterious protagonist and his Harfoot companions find themselves traversing a merciless desert landscape. In these harsh conditions, the stranger gets separated from his group, leading him to cross paths with the elusive Tom Bombadil. It is here that he uncovers more secrets about his destiny. I was so concerned that Rings of Power Season 2 would include Tom Bombadil because of how Tolkien wrote this character. The legendary author didn't provide many answers regarding who and what old Tom was. And I was worried that Rings of Power would go too far in trying to solve a mystery that Tolkien purposely left ambiguous. Now, in a way, my worries weren't unfounded. Prime Video's version of Tom Bombadil in the video has a far more definitive purpose in Middle-earth, since it's implied that his role is to train the Astari, the Maiar, in magic. In Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Tom Bombadil was never depicted as being involved in the larger events beyond the Old Forest. Despite his great power and wisdom, Bombadil was seen to be indifferent to happenings outside his forest realm, almost to the point where he appeared oblivious to even the presence of Sauron in the One Ring. However, this portrayal of Bombadil is different from the character as depicted in Rings of Power Season 2. In the Amazon series The Rings of Power, Rory Kinnear's portrayal of Tom Bombadil captures both his actions and dialogue convincingly. Many of his enigmatic lines are reminiscent of those from The Lord of the Rings, adding to the character's intriguing air of mystery. It's evident that this is a fresh interpretation of the character, deviating from Tolkien's to original being. Though I am usually critical of alterations in literary adaptations, I find myself appreciating this particular change. The Tom Bombadil in The Rings of Power may not surpass Tolkien's version, but he stands independently as a captivating character on his own merit. For a long time, I've been curious about how Gandalf journeyed solo to Withywindle in the Old Forest and spent time with Tom Bombadil afterwards following the destruction of Marshallus, the One Ring, and the Lord of the Rings. It seemed significant that the wizard felt compelled to meet this enigmatic figure after completing his major mission in Middle-earth, but we're seldom given a clear reason why. Rory Kinnear's portrayal of Bombadil offers an imaginative explanation. Perhaps Tom Bombadil functioned as a mentor and guide for the Astaric when they first arrived in Middle-earth. Even though that may not have been Tolkien's original intention, it still aligns with the story's essence. I find myself even more delighted with Kinnear's portrayal of Tom Bombadil. The actor beautifully captures the character's cheerful demeanor, which is spot on for Tom Bombadil, He's enigmatic, endearing, and unlike the usual characters found in Middle-earth, just as old Tom should be. However, what I initially found surprising was the addition of a hint of apprehension to the character that wasn't present in Tolkien's work. At first I had doubts about this. Bombadil's indifference is a key aspect of his character, but it's precisely this nuance that gives Kinnear's understated concern and an intense impact in the Rings of Power. It's a brilliant adaptation.
In essence, the Rings of Power decided to take a significant gamble by incorporating the character Tom Bombadil. It has always seemed that Peter Jackson chose not to include this figure in his film trilogy because he was simply too challenging to portray on screen. Tom Bombadil is quintessential folklore, and his personality doesn't quite align with Middle-earth West or the broader scope of The Lord of the Rings. This makes him an intriguing inclusion in literary terms. However, it appears that this element doesn't translate effectively to eventually the screen. Nevertheless, the omission of Tom Bombadil from Jackson's movie series heightened the importance of including him in the Rings of Power. In order for the Rings of Power to succeed, Amazon Prime Video had to adapt a character. Instead of sticking strictly to Tolkien's old Tom Bombadil, Old Forest, they chose to give him a more substantial role in Middle-earth's conflicts, which was a challenging decision. However, I appreciate that the show's portrayal of the character diverges from Tolkien's original while still respecting it. This adaptation doesn't tread on the iconic original character, but instead presents a fresh take for viewers to appreciate. It honors Tolkien's work without attempting to surpass it. The true Tom Bombadil resides within the pages, yet this screen version in the Rings of Power offers a new aspect of mostly meditation from Roch, a fighting time, a tendency, a project,